If Darth Vader in his prime were to find himself transported back to the Old Republic timeline, it would end up being a catastrophic anomaly that would collapse the power structures of both the light and the dark side. He would be a walking wound in the Force, which have been known to be too much for people to handle. Whether it would be from an ancient artifact that he was sent to procure for Sidious, or due to his meditation and travels through the world between worlds, Vader is sent back to the time of the Old Republic. This version of Vader is not the petulant man-child from Revenge of the Sith or the old man that finally took out Darth Sidious. This is Vader in his prime while he's hunting down any remaining Jedi and searching for ways to bring his love back, or bury the thought of her to save himself some pain. While this version of Vader is not agile by any means thanks to his suit, he is still a physical presence that can't be easily pushed over. He's a walking tank. The only beings in the Old Republic who come even close to this level of hardiness were the Empire's Wrath and the Meteor. The Empire's Wrath was a Sith warrior who was specialized as an immortal juggernaut, and it led through charges to absorb planet-shaking amounts of damage. On the other hand, the Meteor was a Vanguard trooper who specialized in fighting at point-blank range with their heavy plate armor and advanced personal shield generator. What makes Vader even more powerful than them is the fact that he could break his opponent's guard and spirit through sheer kinetic force. The most prominent Sith Lord of the Old Republic era who could come anywhere close to Vader's level of damage resistance would be Darth Malgus. Throughout history, Malgus has been quoted to resemble a walking tank in certain instances, and he helped the Sith Empire through his superhuman durability. During the Battle of Alderaan, he managed to endure a sequence of attacks that would have taken out anyone else who was hit by them. He managed to survive an explosive rocket round to his torso, which had proven to be powerful enough to take out a Sith war droid in one round. When he tackled Jace Malcolm, a Republic trooper who detonated a thermal detonator between them, he managed to survive with only a few scars on his face. Malgus can't compare to the direct blows and barrages of blaster fire that Vader's armor allowed him to withstand. Malgus was no stranger to cybernetics though, as he also wore a life support respirator and heavy armor like Vader. On one hand, Malgus's armor and cybernetics allowed him to ignore pain and fight to a point that surpassed his normal physical limits. What makes Vader even more powerful is the fact that his cybernetics were designed to cause him pain, which fueled his powers even more. While both of them are more than capable of absorbing damage, one of their biggest differences would be in their Force abilities. Darth Malgus is able to use the Force as a combat multiplier, and his application of telekinesis is used in a completely different way. Malgus is able to employ Force Screams to shatter starfighters and Force Push to toss his opponents. But Vader is proven to have way more raw Force potential. Not only is he able to Force choke anyone who crosses him from across the galaxy, but he can lift massive units with ease as well as huge star cruisers. The Lightsaber, an elegant weapon for a more civilized age. And while General Grievous may have collected them for less civilized reasons, you've got to admit there's just something about them. If you're anything like me, you've probably imagined what it would be like to hold one yourself. That's actually why I started Stickman Sabers. The goal was simple: make lightsabers that look amazing, being literally one-to-one replicas of the ones seen on screen, but are also built to handle real use, so you can duel without stressing about damaging them every time things get intense. They are all equipped with state-of-the-art pixel technology, giving off an incredibly bright light that will light up the darkest rooms out there, and obviously have the iconic hum that just feels right the moment you switch it on. And for a limited time, if you pick one up, you'll also get 2 combat sabers for free. If you've ever thought about starting your own collection, this is a pretty good place to start. Links in the description, and now let's get back to the video. One of the biggest differences in their Force abilities comes with Force Lightning though. While Malgus is able to freely use Force Lightning since his armor and cybernetics are primarily external, Vader cannot generate lightning since it would short-circuit his life support systems. Malgus was even capable of mastering the devastating Force Maelstrom, which combined telekinetic storms with Force Lightning. While Malgus is considered to be an extremely seasoned soldier who has fought countless battles, he's never faced an opponent with more raw Force power than Darth Vader, and the mixture of Vader's Force abilities along with his refined dueling abilities would be too much for Darth Malgus. Looking at the Jedi of the Old Republic, even the likes of Grandmaster Satele Shan would be no match for prime Darth Vader. Satele Shan was a legendary Jedi Grand Master who was present during the Cold War and the Great Galactic War as she led the High Council. She was a direct descendant of Revan and Bastila Shan, and she even proved to hold her own against Darth Malgus. It was during her duel with Darth Malgus during the Battle of Alderaan that her lightsaber was destroyed, but she managed to block Malgus's blade with her bare hands with only the Force as her ally. She mastered the technique known as Tuta Minis, which absorbed and dissipated the weapon's energy. Later in that duel, she managed to blast a mountain with an immense amount of Force power, and it ended up crumbling and buried Malgus under the rubble. For a Force user that connected to the light side of the Force, she showed that her mastery of these techniques far surpassed most other light side users who focused more on defensive measures and meditation. Even so, she would be no match for Vader's raw power and surgical precision. Vader's lightsaber form, Form 5 Gem So, was tailored to crush enemies using his strength and relentless counterattacks. It was the perfect form to kill Jedi, and his ability to land power blows with surgical precision makes him an even tougher opponent for Satele. Once again, Vader is no match for Satele's acrobatic offense as she used a double-bladed lightsaber and used Ataru as her lightsaber style. This meant that she relied on Force-assisted speed and acrobatics to overwhelm her opponent, and with Vader's armor, he wouldn't be able to physically keep up with her. It would be his cybernetics that would make this useless against him though, as they were designed to help him keep up with faster opponents with ease. As for Force capabilities, Satele clearly had a broader knowledge of the Force techniques she could use, but Vader's mastery of fewer techniques made him more powerful in a few areas rather than being just good enough in multiple areas. Once again, Satele would be an opponent who was battle-hardened and believed to be more experienced against better opponents, but Darth Vader would absolutely overwhelm her as his lightsaber form was designed to be effective against her double-bladed saber. A tricky opponent for Vader would be the legendary Grand Master known as Nomi Sunrider. Nomi was born with immense Force potential, but she initially chose to live a non-Jedi life as a wife and mother. In fact, she was actually married to a Jedi Knight known as Ander Sunrider, and they had a daughter named Vima. While Ander tried to convince her to train, she committed herself to being a pacifist until Ander was killed by a criminal who was working for Baga the Hutt. After his death, Ander appeared as a Force ghost and convinced Nomi to take up his lightsaber to protect Vima. Nomi managed to take out 2 of the thugs before fleeing, and she decided to train under Master Thrawn. After she fully committed to being a Jedi, she ended up rising through the ranks to become Grand Master of the Order, and she led the Jedi through the Great Sith War. Unlike most Jedi of the Old Republic time, Nomi was known for mastering rare esoteric abilities that allowed her to end battles without lethal action. Her battle meditation capabilities allowed her to coordinate allied minds while demoralizing and confusing the enemy forces. While fighting on Ambria, she managed to make the pirates fight each other, and she was able to do this while she was a novice in training. Another ability of hers was called the Wall of Light, which manifested immense light side energy to purge the dark side from an area, and she led hundreds of Jedi to create one to trap the spirit of Exar Kun within the walls of his Yavin 4 temples. The power that would cause Vader the most trouble would be the one called Force Sever. This power allowed her to cut off a Force user's connection to the Force entirely, and she used this on Ulic Qel-Droma after she witnessed him kill his own brother at the Battle of Alsus. With Vader's connection to the dark side severed, she would take away one of his greatest tools, and it would essentially cripple him in a sense since he used the dark side to make movement in his suit tolerable. Without his connection to the dark side, his heavy suit would end up slowing him down even more, and the bit of pain that he was able to contain with the dark side would become unbearable. On one side, Vader is definitely the stronger duelist and would dominate her with his lightsaber. Since Nomi continued seeing lightsabers as tools of destruction and tried to use hers as little as possible, she didn't master her form as well as Vader did, and his relentless pressure would prove to be too much. The one counter that would save Vader in this instance is the Force barrier that he keeps up at all times. Vader, as well as other high-level Force users, tended to maintain passive defenses that would keep abilities like Nomi's Force Sever from ever landing on them. With that being considered, Nomi would have a hard time penetrating his natural Force defense to land the one ability that would make her the clear victor, and Vader would have no problem destroying her. Maybe someone in the gray area would fare better against Vader though. Mitra Surik was the Jedi Exile who was essentially a wound in the Force, and he was known for defeating the Sith triumvirate, Traya, Sion, and Nihilus. At a young age, Mitra was able to form natural Force bonds with others, and this made her a prime candidate for leadership roles. As the Mandalorian Neo-Crusaders invaded the Republic, Mitra wasn't happy with the Council's decision to stay cautious, and she joined Revan's crusade. He quickly made her a general, and she became one of his most trusted tacticians. Her tactical mind had no problem making tough decisions, as she was the one who ordered the activation of the mass shadow generator during the final battle of Malachor V. This ended up annihilating both sides of the battle, but she managed to survive, technically. To deal with the loss of so much life and creating a wound in the Force, her own mind instinctively severed her connection to the Force, and she returned to the Council to face trial for joining Revan. The Council feared the void where the Force should be inside of her, and they stripped her of her rank and exiled her. For almost a decade, she wandered the Outer Rim as a dead thing, and she believed that this was her just punishment for her crimes. She would eventually rediscover her powers and stop the Sith triumvirate, but the one power that made her such a dangerous being also made her a parasite in the Force. Since she was a void in the Force, she gained the ability to feed off of the Force of those she bonded with and her enemies. With this ability, she could pull the Force from others, but since she was a void in the Force, she was also immune to those that could Force drain as well. As for facing Darth Vader, it could very well come down to Vader's clear advantage with a lightsaber, once again. While Surik was proven to be a gifted duelist who defeated multiple Sith Lords, she would be fodder for someone like Vader who brutalized his opponents. What would make Mitra so dangerous for Vader is the fact that she also knew the ability called Force Sever, and she was invisible to those who used the Force to help target enemies during duels. With her being a void in the Force, there was nothing there for Force-sensitive users to sense. Therefore, any abilities or battle meditation skills that would traditionally help the Force user track their opponent would be useless against her. Surik's best chance for survival would be to form a deep Force bond and sever Vader's connection to the Force, but this would only be to survive. Vader would clearly defeat Mitra, as he would crush Surik before she could form a bridge with her leeching ability, and he would definitely treat her as a high-priority threat that needed to be dispatched quickly. Continuing with the Jedi, one of the most legendary Jedi Masters of the Old Republic time period was Bastila Shan, the grandmother of Satele. She was given to the Jedi Order at a young age, as her parents were nomads who seeked treasure. Bastila grew to resent her mother for giving her up to the Jedi, but she trained under Master Nomi Sunrider and rose to prominence as a Jedi Sentinel. During the Jedi Civil War, she led a strike team onto Darth Revan's flagship, and she discovered Revan after his apprentice Darth Malak fired on the ship. Seeing that he was near death, she saved him and created a powerful Force bond with him. After this, Revan was reprogrammed as a Republic soldier, and the two of them were tasked with searching for the Star Forge, a huge Sith shipyard. It was here that she was captured by Darth Malak and tortured for weeks, and she ended up becoming his new apprentice as she turned to the dark side. This didn't last long though, as she ended up confronting Revan on the Star Forge, and since they were bonded through the Force and Revan declared his love for her, she came back to the light side and helped destroy the Star Forge. She ended up marrying Revan, and after surviving the first Jedi Purge, she spent the rest of her time recording wisdom on holocrons. Her mastery of battle meditation was legendary, and it allowed her to influence the tide of battle by coordinating entire star fleets from across the galaxy. Her bond with Darth Revan acted as a Force dyad in a way, and this allowed them to pool their Force energy to make them more powerful while together. What made Bastila a prodigy at a young age was her raw Force potential, as she had high-level telekinesis abilities, precognition that allowed her to dodge attacks at superhuman speed, and she mastered difficult skills such as Force Breach and Force Sever. All of this would make her a formidable opponent against Darth Vader, but her strengths don't match up well against the walking tank duelist that Vader is. Once again, his form of lightsaber dueling is suited to best her Ataru style, which focuses on defense, and while Bastila was a highly skilled sentinel, she was known to struggle when it came to one-on-one combat, as she was bested by Darth Malak. On top of that, she used a double-bladed lightsaber which was clearly not suitable for defending against his surgical precision and power blows. While Bastila's battle meditation helped her on a strategic, large-scale level, it offered very little advantage against someone like Vader in a one-on-one duel. her raw force telekinesis power was exceptional, but it paled in comparison to Vader's abilities, as he has been seen crushing AT-ATs and holding back the ocean with his power. Another area where Bastila was clearly lacking was her mental fortitude. Vader's mind was a fortress of pain and hatred, and the only thing that was able to break through was watching Luke suffer at the hands of his master. Other than that, his mind is known to be a solid fortress that was resistant to mental intrusion. Bastila, on the other hand, was clearly susceptible to influence as she broke under Darth Malak's torture. Vader's overwhelming Force fear presence would keep her on the defensive side for most of their fight. The only way that Bastila would stand a chance is if she were to use her fleet under the influence of her battle meditation. But in terms of a one-on-one duel, Vader is too strong, too durable, has a combat style that's designed to defeat her, and is resistant to any and all of her influences. What about the man who defeated Bastila in the first place? After Mandalorians destroyed his homeworld, Darth Malak escaped to the Republic, and he was found to be Force-sensitive by the Jedi Enclave on Dantooine. While he was training, he became friends with another Padawan who would turn out to be Revan. When the Mandalorian Neo-Crusaders attacked the Republic, he joined Revan in disobeying the Council and leading the Revanchists to fight. He became a Republic general who was known for being a reckless warrior, but over the course of the war, he was exposed to Sith secrets that twisted his ideals. After taking victory at Malachor V, Malak and Revan chased the last Mandalorians into the unknown regions where they found Vitiate. He corrupted both of them, and they were sent back as agents before breaking free of the Emperor's mind control. The two of them decided to create their own Sith Empire, but their bond was soon broken. After Malak questioned Revan's fortitude, Revan severed his lower jaw in a duel, and Malak was forced to wear a metal prosthesis and vocabulator to speak. It wasn't until the first battle against Bastila's Jedi strike team that he decided to usurp power and fired on Revan's ship. He took the title of Dark Lord of the Sith and continued to wage brutal war against the Republic. Malak's force power mastery helped him control total battlefields and platoons, and he was also able to sustain himself through the life force of others. He was capable of freezing multiple enemies with a Force stasis field, and he also liked to use Force Whirlwind, which created rotating vortexes of energy. On top of that, he was also able to shut down another person's connection to the Force, and he would remove their defensive buffs to leave them very vulnerable. One of his most useful abilities is his ability to Force Drain, and he used Death Field during his final duel with Revan, which helped him leech the life force from captive Jedi husks so that he could replenish his own life energy during their fight. This made him nearly invulnerable to Force attacks, so one could only rely on physical combat to best him. So when it comes to taking on Darth Vader, Malak comes closer to defeating him than anyone else that we've mentioned, but it's still not enough. Unlike everyone else, Malak doesn't rely on one form in particular, and he used an aggressive one-handed hybrid of Makashi, Ataru, and Juyo. This made him a closer match in terms of lightsaber dueling, but while Vader was surgical with Gemso, he was technically a master of all seven, and was attuned to fighting any of the forms. Malak was known to be one of the greatest duelists of the Old Republic, but he was defeated twice by his master Darth Revan. In the end, Malak's best chance for defeating Vader would be to rely on Force Drain so that he could access a more unlimited external energy source to keep up with Vader. But all in all, Vader's skill and raw Force potential still makes him a nearly impossible opponent. Malak is able to use Force abilities such as Force Lightning to defeat most people, but Vader has proven that he can block it with his lightsaber and absorb it through 2 minis. Finally, the one person who could stand a chance against Vader is one that's been tied to many of the previous people in one form or another, Darth Revan. Revan was a Jedi Knight who became famous for defying the Jedi Council during the Mandalorian Wars, where he led a group of defecting Jedi known as the Revanchists. He managed to turn the tide of the war with his brilliant tactical genius, and he donned the mask of a fallen Mandalorian on Cathar, where he vowed to never remove it until he was defeated. The war was brought to an end when Revan slew Mandalore the Ultimate and authorized the use of the Mass Shadow Generator, which took out both fleets as well as the planet's surface. After breaking free of Vitiate's influence along with Darth Malak, he used the Starforge to build his own fleet, which sparked the Jedi Civil War. After Bastila rescued him on his flagship, which Malak opened fire on, his mind was wiped by the Jedi Council, who reprogrammed him as a Republic soldier. Even after he rediscovered his true identity, he decided to stay in the light, which led to him defeating his old apprentice, destroying the Starforge, and being called the Prodigal Knight. His hardships were far from over though, as he was haunted by the memories of the true Sith, which led him to venture back to the unknown regions by himself. It was here that he was captured and held by Vitiate for 300 years, and he spent this time connecting to the Force telepathically to influence the Emperor. He single-handedly delayed the Sith invasion of the Republic for centuries. Eventually, his spirit fractured into light and dark halves before it merged and became one with the Force. What made him so powerful was his ability to blend light and dark side connections, which was nearly impossible for anyone else. He is one of the few Force users to achieve total balance without being consumed by light or dark. This meant that he could channel both sides to unleash blasts of pure Force energy as well as a Force maelstrom with a protective bubble. His level of telekinesis was close to a godlike level, as he could pull massive meteors down from the sky to use them as a weapon, and he could wield 2 additional lightsabers by using the Force. His will was indomitable, and his level of mental manipulation helped him tear information straight out of the mind of groups of people. He also mastered the ability known as Tudiminis, and he was capable of using the Force to heal severe wounds and push poisons out of his body. As for a battle between Darth Revan and Darth Vader, this is the closest matchup for Vader in the Old Republic or his own time. Not only does Revan possess a much wider range of Force abilities, but he has also mastered them. His raw Force power is on par with Vader's, while Vader's ability to use the power in a one-on-one duel is more practiced compared to Revan's use against whole armies. One of the key factors going in Vader's favor is the fact that Revan thinks as a strategist and general at all times, while Vader is absolutely brutal and always has one goal in his sights: his enemy. While Revan is a legendary warrior, his less technical Nyman style of lightsaber dueling means that Vader would have no problem walking him down with his pressure and surgical strikes. Revan most definitely poses the biggest threat against Vader, but there's no way that Prime Vader would allow himself to be in a situation where Revan would be able to utilize the strengths that he has. In a military situation, Revan definitely has the upper hand, but in a deathmatch, Vader will always reign supreme.
Oh, and again, for a limited time, every Stickman Saber purchase comes with 2 additional combat sabers, so you're more than ready for your own duels. If that sounds like something you'd want to look into, the link's in the description.